Hi, I'm licensed IO psychologist Dr. Clif P Lewis, and I'm not a conservative. Also not a liberal. I'm a nightmare. Roll intro.
We don't want to get sued, so we're going to be like super vague. First mistake.
How are you a manager and unable to deal with conflict?
If nothing else, I'm balanced.
Welcome to Management Tool, the show about psychology, employment, and management, where my esteemed guests and I talk about why what you're doing is wrong. Today's special guest is none other than my baby brother, Fourie. Hello, Fourie.
Hi guys, hello.
Okay, cool. So, bio. Let's get to the bio. Yes, I didn't prepare anything because I'm not a professional. So, Fourie is a senior management professional with 10 years of experience within the supply chain and food production industries. The majority of his career was spent in operations management, managing teams of up to 160. That's not a team, girl. That's a department. Processes and engaging with strategic accounts clients to ensure service delivery excellence within Southern Africa. Not only South Africa, but Southern Africa. Remember all of those trips up to Namibia. His expertise consists of motivating and managing operational teams. There is a special place in heaven for you for doing that. And improving efficiency in operational systems. I do that too. Managing client relationships, I don't do that. I'm not client facing, so also a special place in heaven for you for that.
Or in hell.
Well, if I had to face clients, I would have a special place in hell because they would all be dead by my hand. And then his formal credentials include an honors degree in business management with a focus on supply chain and operations management. He's also currently enrolled in a Bachelor of Law degree because he decided that he doesn't want to go to heaven, apparently. He's selling his soul to the legal profession. We all know you're all going one way. Don't you also have a diploma in marketing?
Oh yeah, but I mean,
He
compared
also has a
to
diploma compared to what?
compared to what's there at the back and here, I mean,
Well, not all of this is mine. Some of this is yours. Because to my one listener, I'm at our mother's house. So welcome, Fourie. Thanks for being on the show. I started running out of friends to bully into being on my show, so I mean I'm resorting to family now. So I really appreciate your time. So let's get right into it. So what we're going to be talking about today is complex relationships at work, or complex dynamics at work. And if you've watched any of the other episodes, you'll know that Management Tool is about pretty much roasting people for being shitty managers, or for being bad at work, or for being bad at management, because there's really no excuse. Google is free, and there's a lot of information and free tools out there that you can use to be a better manager and be better with people in your organization, and people just aren't. So that's what we do. We roast them, and hopefully they will do better. But I'm nothing if not balanced. So I start the show with a segment called the sharpest tool in the shed, where we're a little bit more nice-ish. And today's sharpest tool in the sheds, there's not one tool, but 8 of them. And I just need to open this link because I didn't prepare. Oh my god. So while editing this, I realized that this bit was super boring. I don't know how Fourie kept a straight face throughout the whole thing. Anyway, so basically all it was the sharpest tool in the shed this week was 8 business leaders that were being nature positive and super green. So here are their names, and I put the link to the article I use in the description. So you can check it out there, but I had to cut it. Okay, bye. Okay. So the first thing that I want to do is, do you know Glassdoor, the website Glassdoor?
I've heard of it, but no, not really.
Right. So it's kind of like, it's like a mix between, it's like if businesses had Facebook profiles. So it's not like LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is still like end users, but it's like Facebook for companies. So you've got different companies that have profiles, and then people can like write reviews, what the pros and cons of working at that company. There's a approval rating of the CEO and yada yada yada.
Okay.
Yes, and so
It sounds like that it's something that can get very messy.
the messiness is real. The messiness is real. But I just want to show you. Okay, do you have your phone for your WhatsApp? I'm sending you a picture, which I will obviously edit into this video. Oopsie. Oh, you don't want that. I'm sending you a screenshot from something that I found on Glassdoor. So insert picture here. Let me know what you think.
Come build the future with us.
So top companies to work for.
Is Amazon the number one? That
Glassdoor, you sit on a throne of lies.
that's a paid ad, a banner ad.
It's a stretch. It's a stretch. I think I don't know if like the marketing department at Glassdoor is on leave, or if someone done lost their minds, because I don't know who they think they're going to convince that Amazon is. What is the actual thing? It says top companies to work for. Number one in the US is Amazon. The companies whose CEO went to space while the employees can't afford like basic shit. So I thought that would be a fun intro into our discussion about complex interpersonal dynamics in the workplace. And by that, I don't mean your CEO being a blatant asshole.
I want to thank every Amazon employee and every Amazon customer, because you guys paid for all of this.
I mean, generally, when people are working together, there are going to be dynamics. So I listed a few, specifically within the context of trust. And so you are familiar with the TED Talks, yes?
Yeah.
Because TED Talks, like the red TED something. No? Okay.
I am familiar, but I haven't really listened to
Right.
them.
No, because I was going to make a joke, a self-deprecating joke, saying you are familiar with TED Talks because your brother is constantly hosting TED Talks around the dinner table.
Oh yeah. Well, that is
about why all white people are evil, blah 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 blah. Okay, down with the patriarchy, eat the rich. So there was a TED Talk by a professor called Professor Frances Fourie, and she's talking about trust. Trust in general, but specifically also how it applies to organizations. She said that trust has three fundamental components. One is logic, so the ability to like think rationally and reasonably. Authenticity, so not being fake, being real, being vulnerable. And what was the third? So it was and empathy. So having empathy for your coworkers. So that is the triangle of trust in organizations or in life in general, but she was discussing it in the context of work. And this podcast is about work. So let's talk about trust in the workplace, in the context of complex working environments, complex working relationships, and referring to trust as being the product of authenticity, logic, and empathy. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's funny when you brought up the trust, that it immediately brought me back to one of my previous managers, that he would say straight out
Spill the tea. Spill the tea.
that he said well, he didn't, like, he would own it. He would say that he doesn't trust anybody. He doesn't.
Oh, I mean, that is a great thing to hear from your manager, right? Super empowering and motivating.
Yeah. So he would say that he doesn't trust people, and I mean, I don't know. It's, I mean, you can't trust everybody, but I mean,
Right.
if you don't trust people, then how can you let them?
Did he ever elaborate as to why?
No, not at all.
And he would say this to you and include you into that no one?
No. I mean, we were on a good footing, and it was normally in discussion talking about
the lower level people, the lower echelon people. Yeah, no, of course. Was this boss of yours potentially, by any chance, white?
Yes.
Well, see, there you go. First mistake. Rookie mistake. Should have never worked for him.
Yeah, I don't know if that means anything, but he was also not South African, so.
Oh no, assholes comes in all kind of different nationalities.
Yeah, no, you're not for sure.
But they are quite prevalent amongst the white men. So, okay, cool. So tell me a bit more about that relationship. Was it the one I met?
Most probably. Where did you? Oh, yeah.
Was it the one I met? What was the word? Oh, he couldn't say that one country's name properly. Remember that meeting? Okay, all right. So I was working for an organization at the time when Fourie was working for that company, and we don't want to get sued, so we're going to be like super vague. Or we're not going to get too detailed, are we?
No, but I mean,
okay.
I don't really give a shit.
Oh, same. Okay, but anyway, so I was working for a company that was looking at expanding, especially like across borders. And so Fourie was working for a company that did work in a country that's not South Africa. And so there was potential for synergies, if, buzzwords, I know, whatever, but there was some potential for working together. And so myself and a senior person from my organization met with Fourie and his boss. Oh my God. And throughout the whole meeting, he kept saying the name of this country that we were going to work in, but he couldn't say it properly. And Fourie didn't warn me. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there about to have a aneurysm because I had to hold in my laughter because this person couldn't say the country in which he was working the name properly. So it's that guy. Okay, yeah, he was a peach.
Yeah, I mean, we worked well together in most parts, and he gave me a lot of opportunities, I have to say. But I mean,
well, the man couldn't do anything, so I mean, sure, it was giving you an opportunity, but who was he really helping, you or himself?
Yeah. So, but I mean, dealing with certain relationships, it was it was a bit difficult to watch. So yeah.
So yeah, I also remember it being difficult to watch him. So if we use Professor Francis Frey's framework of trust being the product of authenticity, logic, what was the other one? Empathy. What do you think was absent either from him, like outwards, or from other people, towards him, that resulted in him feeling that he doesn't trust anyone? Logic or empathy, or I keep forgetting, logic or empathy or authenticity?
Authenticity. I think maybe a big part of that is authenticity, because operating in the world and realm that we operated in terms of we were sort of in the service delivery industry, offering a service on a day-to-day basis, working with a lot of customers. I mean,
Maybe we can just give context to that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the service delivery is, so basically, if I've got it correct, basically what your company did was you had large corporate clients, so business to B2B, business to business, and so they would have certain needs like, say, cleaning or canteen food stuff and services to the actual business, not client facing. And so instead of having in-house departments that does these things, they would contract it out to your company. Is that a fair summary?
yes,
So that's
no,
what you
correct.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, going through a lot of his own experiences within the business and with clients, he sort of developed that unauthentic mannerism of dealing with people.
Like a customer service being like this veneer of niceness, and like underneath you're like, I fucking hate you. Mm.
Yeah, and I think that spilled over into the team itself, or dealing with your own people.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
But the other thing also of you mentioned empathy, and I think I've experienced that. What you didn't mention in my bio is I think I'm the middle management expert, because that's where I've been all my life.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I've worked with I've been sandwiched between working with executives in the boardroom, but also working with the people on the ground, the operators, the blue collar people, etc.
So you don't have the luxury of having low responsibilities, but you also don't have the power to make decisions. So you have neither and both at the same time. You don't have the luxury and you have the shitty part of kind of both at the same time. Like the middle child, like no one really gives attention to the middle child. Actually, with our current situation, our mother has a dog which she rescued, who is technically our younger brother. So in the current setup, you are the middle child as well. You're the middle manager, you're the middle child. But anyway, but yeah, you were saying about empathy.
I think, and that's where I also sort of taking in my stride with my own people that I had to manage is, if you don't try and understand the situation when it comes to difficult situations within the workplace, or I mean, putting yourself in their shoes, they're not really going to take you seriously when you talk to them about the certain work situation.
Right.
So, and I think that's also a big thing about the trust aspect. If they don't think you understand the situation, they're not going to trust you in the first place. So yeah.
I also have to say to my one listener, if we compare ourselves, you and I, yes, I'm a licensed psychologist, but I'm an IO psychologist, not a clinical psychologist, because I have a short fuse and I flip my shit like this. But you're very sort of, okay, cool, let's talk about it, let's listen, you know. And I think that is a very good indication of your level of empathy. And I mean, you even mentioned the utility of having empathy. It's not all warm and fuzzy and, oh, now we can hold hands and sing Kumbaya together. There's actual business return of, you know, your people doing what you want them to do, or being more productive, or whatever the case might be, if they feel there is a level of empathy.
Yeah, and it's a little bit off topic, but you mentioned the sort of cooler and calmer way of
Demeanor.
doing things, demeanor. And I don't think that's like a measuring stick for, I mean, anything or a lot of things, but I've experienced it recently that is something that is very lacking in even executives, being so
Empathy.
sorry, emotional intelligence.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which empathy is obviously part of that, but yeah.
See how nicely I trained them, people. Quickly corrected himself. Being calm is not the same as emotional intelligence. It's not the same as empathy. It's part of it.
It's part of it. It's comprised of a lot of things, but
Six to
I've
be exact.
noticed that
Five.
noticed that emotional intelligence goes a long way in the workplace. But anyway,
No, but you tell me, because if I do it, I'm just going to get into the technical aspects of the 5 different sub factors that there's a flying thing in the office in the study. The subscales that make up the entire scale of the EQI2, blah 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 blah. I think people would be much rather like to hear how you actually experience, or the lack thereof.
yeah, I mean, if you like how I'm dealing with executives, if you take a few executives in certain departments like operations and finance, etc., and you line them up and you work with them together. And I mean, I'm not sure if that's the same for everybody, but for me, something like emotional intelligence is something that I pick up quickly, and I notice it basically. And if you then look at their department and how it is run, and how less knee-jerk stuff is, and how
people aren't like frantic and running around and very reactive.
Yeah, and how the state of the mindset of the people under them are, and if they are calm or not, and it's quite interesting to notice that. And
what you're saying, there's a link. Like if someone has like a high emotional intelligence, the sort of the atmosphere and the culture and the climate within the workspace is more optimal. Let's call it balanced, optimal, ideal.
Yes, yeah, I would say that. I mean, at the end of the day, if you are executive people working under you, you can't please everybody. I mean, in the sense of what they would want out of their job, or how they would want to work in the workplace or whatever. But on the on average, I would say a person or a manager with a high emotional intelligence would be able to manage their, as you say, their team more optimally and have less problems. That's what I think. So
Cool. So then I have this little list here that you and I spoke about beforehand, because we were concerned we weren't going to have anything to talk about. Even though when we get together, we just bitch about our work all the time anyway. So we should just actually install a camera in the house when you come and visit, and then,
yeah.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, onto that first point that you have on the list. I just want to quickly bring in the whole emotional intelligence thing. That it's sometimes a difficult thing because of, as I listed there, corporate culture. Now, if you, as say for instance me, which it happened to me, steps into a corporate culture that is sort of completely, I don't know how that works, but it's completely low-level emotional intelligence. Everybody that works here has a very low emotional intelligence.
Are we talking about that company that you and I have both acquaintances with?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that one. Yeah, I would describe that corporate culture as toxic with a capital T and a capital O and a capital, like the whole thing is capitalized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Carry on.
so it's difficult because now you're stepping into a situation where you sort of know what works for you, you know what works for your team. Being in a new place, it is difficult. You're not going to get everything right, and you need to please a client. But now your emotional intelligence level is out the window because they see it as a weak point. I think because it was not being calm and
Oh, because they're not seeing any reaction.
yes, because it doesn't matter how your goals are gauged or set out. Their goal is to see how you react and how quickly you react and with how much violent you can react. Basically, violent. Sorry.
Yeah, so that is a very complex situation. I joke and I say, oh, it's so bad, it's so toxic, and it is all of those things. But just listening to someone else also talk about it, I have firsthand experience of that situation, that work context. Just makes me realize that it is actually very complex. So there's various factors. There is the emotional intelligence that some people probably don't have. But then there's also a lot of bad habits, I think, that lead to, as you said, there's a lower level of emotional intelligence. And obviously, things like this aren't just A results in B equals C or whatever. But if you are in a cycle of perpetually, screaming at each other and being reactive and freaking out and shouting and all of this, it doesn't give people an opportunity to develop real positive relationships where you are able to be vulnerable. Because if you're talking about empathy, there's a lot of vulnerability that goes along with that, as well as authenticity, and that's not something that just magically appears. Or in your case, even if you are very authentic in the fact that you don't shout and scream and swear, you listen to people, you think about stuff, you discuss it, you're collaborative. Just because you're like that doesn't necessarily mean the other person is comfortable in that kind of space or has had the opportunity to develop that. I mean, if you're constantly in fight or flight, which is pretty much, I think, the situation there's no opportunity to develop let's think back at the triangle of trust. Right? So it's authentic, you're not allowed to be authentic because you're too scared to be authentic. You might have backlash from it, right? So you're constantly on defense. So you're wearing a mask. Empathy, you don't get the opportunity to communicate your feelings or listen to someone else's feelings because we're constantly fighting. So there goes empathy. And logic, I mean, sure, Jan. So it just becomes a very trustless organization, and it's very difficult to get out of that because, I mean, it's been like that since the many years ago I was there, and it's still like that recently when you were there. I don't know how you get out of that because, you kind of have to have all three, and none of it comes just because. I think you've probably had a lot of opportunities to develop your own emotional intelligence. Is obviously a skill for those of you who didn't know. It's not something like personality that is established and stable through the course of your career, through the course of your life, emotional intelligence is something you can develop. So you obviously have had opportunities to develop your emotional intelligence, and just as a person, you probably have not a tendency, a nature of being authentic. I mean, you are authentic in a very sort of kind, calm way. I'm authentic in the fact that I have no filter. But we've had the opportunities to kind of safe spaces to develop that. And we're both really smart. So that's why I think for you, it's probably difficult to go into situations like that, because you come with a lot of trust, you're willing to trust people, but then you just get hit in the face with all of this negativity.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. As you said, having the opportunity to learn those skills, and I think a big part of that is sort of starting small and building over time, which was my case in terms of also working with people. I didn't start with this team that I
160.
Yeah, I didn't start with them, because if I started with 160 team, I probably would have also been just freaking crazy and screaming, and I don't know,
just reacting the whole time.
Yeah. So that's definitely true. But I mean,
I think that speaks to this first, because I keep looking at our list. The first item that we had on the list is expectations on managers. So I think that's what you said. Like, you can't expect someone to just all of a sudden know how to be the best manager, the best people manager.
But at the same time, is then put out that expectations quite clearly and concisely out to the people, because putting out expectation to people in the workplace is also, in my opinion, lacking. I mean,
how do you mean?
Simple things, like, for instance, myself, because I've always, obviously, the low level people of the arbeiders, the work.
Okay, cut.
The laborers.
Rewind. The people lower in the organizational hierarchy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just a joke, man. Yeah, okay. But anyway, so they simple things like the expectation on they say, for instance, their work hours is very clear, when they need to come to work, when they need to go to work. For instance, for me, you sort of, as a manager that has other responsibilities, sort of needs to maybe work odd hours, which we can come back to in a second.
Capitalism propaganda. Yeah, no.
It's not always set in stone, but it's also still
even if it is set in stone, it's bullshit. This whole, going the extra mile, staying after hours, for what?
Yeah, but I mean, just the normal working hours in the 7 years that I've worked for companies, I've never had working hours. It's said to me, your working hours is this and this. And this is just now.
You've mostly been in management roles, and generally managers don't have working hours.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's why I was burned to a crisp when I was. Okay, I'm not going to say the actual role. When I was a boss at a company, because you don't have hours.
No, I know, but that's besides the point. My point is that sometimes that spills over to other things,
like
your duties, your goals, what is expected of you. It's sometimes very muddled in terms of in terms of an instruction like, just get it done, or just sort it out, or
Okay, but then you can bring that back to the trust triangle. Oh my God, I sound like a youth pastor at a at a troubled teen reform retreat. If you bring it back to the trust triangle, that is the, what was it now? That was the logic part, is the, just get it done. So like, where's the logic in that? You're not giving me any logic or an explanation or a reasoning or anything like that. You're not giving me an opportunity to give, my thoughts on the matter to you, to show you my logic. So then again, the trust, then the triangle breaks because the logic goes out the window. So Then the next thing that I've got on the list is directions provided by Exco. God, the experiences that I've had with Excos was the ones that I've been on. They've been insufferable because people like the sound of their own voice. I know I'm saying this on my own podcast, but people have the option to click away if they don't want to. You don't have that option when you're sitting in an Exco meeting. And the Excos that I've been a consultant for like leadership development and coaching and stuff like that, they don't really know what they want. Like me, especially when I have a coach role to fill, that's basically the main purpose, is just to get the people to articulate what it actually is that they want. And they can't even explain it to each other. Now imagine having to leave that Exco boardroom and go and translate what was just discussed with your team. And then they have to go to, what a nightmare.
Yeah, that was sort of already, I know, I just already, those directions sort of filters into the expectation, to be honest.
Right. There's one thing on the list that I really wanted to, I didn't ask you what you actually meant by it, because I wanted you to explain it to me like on the podcast. But you said you wanted to discuss, and this also ties in with the, for in case someone decides they want to roast me, since I'm roasting everyone else. This does tie into the greater theme of trust and empathy and logic and authenticity. Human resource management misdirection. That sounds devious. What is that?
Yeah, so also working with as an operations manager or project manager or something like that, working with different departments and functions of the business. HR obviously also being a big one, working with HR. I think within these big companies, that for me the whole core objective of the human resource department is misdirected, and it's always what I've experienced. It's always a lot reactive. It's always sort of let's sort out this guy. Let's a lot of emphasis is put on the employee relations, and not really on developing people.
I thought when you said HRM misdirection, is that Maxi? Maxi wants to be on the show.
Yeah, he's sniffing at the door.
Let him in. Show him.
Max, kom eens zo.
Maxi.
No, God, please, no.
Hallo, Maxi. Maxi.
Was een café.
Hallo, Maxi.
Was een café.
Maxi. No, he's like, They're shit. I thought when I saw HR misdirection, I thought you meant intentional, like misdirecting to kind of detract from other stuff. That's why I said it sounded devious.
Oh,
But
no.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean. I like you're saying the collective energy that HR has at its disposal is focused on, let's call it, the more negative stuff rather than building, developing. They're constantly putting out fires, but I'm assuming your meaning is that they're constantly putting out fires, but it's fires that they kind of started themselves, or that started as a result of shit that they don't do.
Yeah, I mean, somebody, a mentor of mine in a different sense, not in a business.
Can we just quickly address the elephant in the room? No, I'm not talking about me. Our accents. To someone who might not know us and be like, why do those two look exactly the same, but they sound like they're from different countries? That is because I am a fake bitch and I've been to various other countries and I've kind of parroted their accent. So my accent is this weird amalgamation of...
And the furthest I've been was Namibia and Mauritius, and there's so many SA tourists in Mauritius that it's basically South Africa.
You were pretty much, yes. Okay, so if anyone wondering why do they not sound the same, that's why. So yes,
I talk like Nas Botha. I have the Nas Botha accent.
Don't sell yourself short. It's not that bad. It's just different from mine. That's all. So yeah, you were saying about the fires and HRM, like constantly putting out fires because they're focusing on the more negative stuff.
Yeah. So this person I work with, this mentor of mine, he said something. Well, it's very self-explanatory, but he said prevention is better than cure. And it always seems that a lot of issues that you have with people in the workplace could have been
prevented.
Yeah, sorry. So
in what sense? Like, yeah, that makes logical sense.
Well,
but
something as simple as just communicating with people, not keeping stuff away from them, like.
So coming back to the expectations.
Yes, you're not going to get a bonus, basically, or something like that until the day before. Or
what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, exactly. So simple things like that is you could have prevented, because now the person is very angry. They're acting out. They're acting out in their job, being rude to customers, whatever the case may be.
The trust triangle falls apart.
Yeah. You start stealing, whatever. So the thing is. No, I'm just kidding.
Not two white men talking about lower level employees stealing shit. There's something flying.
I did not say you mentioned the lower level. I just said workers. It can be anybody. It can be me.
Oh, right.
Your brain went there automatically.
Yes, welcome to my TED Talk. That was what I was referring to earlier. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that is definitely true. And even though, these things are so easy to say, I mean, prevention is better than cure. Have empathy, have emotional intelligence, listen to people, be authentic, have empathy, all of these things. But what do you think? Why
but I think
are
because
managers so shit?
No, but the thing is with the HR is because where I've seen it, like the most prevalent firsthand was, you could see the sort of the management structure is very understaffed. So they sort of always, because the company doesn't value sort of performance appraisals or stuff like that. So they don't spend time on it. or they can't actually, and then they just spend time on recruiting and disciplinaries and stuff like that.
So you become instead of like being, a department focused on human resources,
exactly.
you basically become a supply line, just get new ones in because those ones are okay, new ones, buy, new ones, buy. That's essentially what it becomes. That's what you mean by the misdirection. So instead of like stopping the supply line and saying, let's stop, okay, the sushi thingy that goes around, let's develop these ones instead of just, doing that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so it's not as devious as I thought it was.
No.
Right. So let's end on a positive note. What would be your recommendation to managers who we just roasted and said that you can't say a country's name properly and you have no trust and you don't have emotional intelligence and your energy is focused in the wrong area and you can do better? What would your advice be?
That's a difficult one. It's now like me trying to say to big corporate companies, listen.
Oh, they f up the most.
At the end of the day, I would say that people should be a little bit more people focused. I think.
But by people focused, don't you think just because people focus is a bit vague, right? Don't you think what you said in the very beginning, the empathy, when you say be people focused, I think
being more
having
involved.
empathy. Sorry?
Yeah, and being more involved.
And being more involved. So yeah, because when you're actually involved, you're not just barking instructions at someone. You physically, firsthand, you see, you hear, you smell what is going on in someone's life. And then to try and have a little empathy will then, because a lot of people say, oh, I'm so people focused. What the fuck does that mean, Jenny?
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought of Jenny, because I have a friend, Jenny, and she's lovely. But that's the first time that popped into my head. Yeah, so empathy, definitely. What else?
Well, your triangle was held up very high during this. The logic is also, I think, a very big thing, because sometimes in terms of managers, they are sort of they think they are being hard on people by just saying just get it done, or setting unrealistic goals. But I mean, if you work with somebody and get and establish the logic behind a situation, doesn't matter how difficult it is that you need to overcome something, then
and maybe be open to someone else's logic as well.
Exactly.
So when you say like be involved, so you give them your side, like I imagined it playing out like this, you're doing it like this, and then the people that you're now involved in, you feedback and say, wow.
And remember, if the lower manager, so say for instance, I want to relay my logic to the executive, but I don't really trust him or feel comfortable with him, I'm not going to maybe say much. So
because there's no trust. It's a triangle broke.
Yeah.
So essentially, just have empathy, be authentic, don't be fake. Sometimes that means having difficult conversations, but at the end of the day, it's going to be worth your while. And logic, talk, collaborate, be open to new ideas. So thanks for all of that. Is there anything you would like to plug?
My Instagram, my Facebook.
Is Instagram and Facebook even still a thing? Don't we only have Twitter now?
Well, up until like the Monday, people were sure of it, but not so much now because they went down
So,
like a ton
if
of
people want to cyber stalk you, where can they find you?
No, I am on Twitter, but I'm not really active. I don't tweet, but I do have a Instagram at
Do you know what your
303.
handle is? At 303.
Yeah. And Fourie Lewis on Facebook and also on LinkedIn, Fourie Lewis.
Yes, and for those of you who do not understand the Afrikaans language, Fourie is F-O-U, how does it go? F-O-U-R-I-E. That is actually a surname, which is his first name. His middle name is also a surname because that is what we do. My socials on everything, Twitter, Insta, TikTok, to the Gen Z's dismay, is all Clif with one F P Lewis. And I thank you for your time, and I will see you at the next TED Talk on Sunday afternoon around the lunch table.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.